I want this chance to show you that your garden karate is so much nonsense, and that's quite easy to do.
I know Kung Fu. Show me.
Well, thank you. Once again, welcome to another exciting episode of H8L Presents Fistfights and Fried Rice. I'm your host, Taz. Following me, as always, is Deku is here.
Yo, bruh.
Uncle McGriddles.
What's up, man?
UTBABYA.
What?
And Justice Magnificent is having some technical issues, but he'll be on momentarily. Once again, gentlemen, this is episode 4 of Fistfights and Fried Rice. For those listening on YouTube or what other platform this podcast is on, feel free to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Gentlemen, today is all about the beat-em-ups. SNK versus Capcom. I have a feeling we're going to have a wonderful discussion on the joys of Fatal Fury and the joys of King of Fighters and its many spin-offs, as well as Street Fighter and some of its spin-offs. How you guys doing this evening?
Excellent. Great, man.
I'm living the dream, man. Days are turning into weeks. Weeks are turning into months as I work from home. But doing good.
That is what I like to hear. That is what I like to hear. So, with this special occasion of us going into the realm of 2D fighting games and side-scrolling beat-em-ups, I thought it was only right to go ahead and change some of our music for a little bit. So allow me to replay the intro, but in the world of bit music. Yes. I figured all our musical cues are going to be 8-bit, 16-bit, or just bit-related throughout the entire duration of the show. I figured that's a good way to fully represent what we're going to be discussing and talking about this evening. Deku, if you don't mind me asking, is it all right if I go ahead and play your music for what we're eating today?
Sure, go for it.
Good man, good man. You really didn't have a choice in the matter anyway. But here is your music. So what are we feasting on this afternoon?
Yeah, what we feasting on? Okay, there's this lady. She lives here in Charlotte. Her business is called Cooking with Joya. Now, I'm not a vegan man. My girlfriend is vegan, and she was like, "Hey, man, I do what you eat meat or you don't. Man, you gotta try the spot." She has pop-up spots around Charlotte and the surrounding areas. Her name is Chef Joya. Business called Cooking with Joy, and man, I tell you that her vegan, she cooks pretty much vegan everything, Hispanic food, soul food, whatever you name it, man. And the first time I went out there, we had some vegan mac and cheese, some vegan Philly cheesesteak, and man, delicious, scrumptious, all the above.
Oh wow!
And every time she does a pop-up spot, I'm just trying to get the location and everything because it's limited, and me and probably thousands of other people online trying to see where she about to pop up in all the surrounding areas. But delicious food. Her name is Chef Joya, of course, and our business called Cooking with Joya. She has an Instagram. It's Cooking with Joya, all lowercase. And like I said, delicious.
Well, that's what's up, man. Yeah, thanks for the shout out. I'm definitely have to check her out. I'm not the biggest fan of vegan food, but I trust your opinion. If you say she's worth checking out, I'll definitely check her out. Mm-hmm. Gentlemen, Fatal Fury, Street Fighter 2. Now, I think it goes without question to say that obviously Street Fighter 2 is the superior of the two fighting games. I mean, it'd be hard to deny its cultural impact. It'd be hard to deny its more memorable characters, and it would be hard to deny its easier, playable engine and whatnot. What are your thoughts now that you guys have had a chance to go back down memory lane and think about Fatal Fury / King of Fighters versus that of Street Fighter 2? Opening the floor up.
Well, I will say this. Growing up, I was not really that good in any Street Fighter. Loved the game, played it with my brother all the time, but Fatal Fury was a different story. For some reason, I was good in that. I don't know what it was, but thinking about it, when I found out about what we're about to talk about today, I was really giddy as hell. Because I remember I didn't really get on Fatal Fury till it came out on Dreamcast. I was playing Capcom versus SNK, Capcom versus SNK2. And I was like, man, let me go back and play these other games. Shoot, man. Like, for me to be good at that game, it really meant a lot to me. Like I said, I think Street Fighter is the superior brand.
Oh, without a doubt.
The same way, man. I think I played Capcom versus SNK 2 before I played any SNK game, I think.
Oh, wow.
And then after I was like, who the hell are these characters? And then I went back and I was mainly for King of Fighters. I did play all the Fatal Furies a little bit before doing this. But obviously what you said in the beginning is true, which I'm sure somebody is going to be like loading a shotgun to kill us for saying that Street Fighter is just better than Fatal Fury. But Fatal Fury was, I don't want to call it a knockoff, but if there wasn't Street Fighter 2, SNK wouldn't have said, hey, we can probably make some money if we make something like this.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I was doing some research in regards to SNK and Capcom. And what blows my mind is the creator of Fatal Fury was actually one of the original creators of the very first Street Fighter game. Which would completely shock the crap out of me. Takashi Nishiyama, back in 1987, created the very first and original Street Fighter, introducing us to Ryu and Sagat. But he also left Capcom, went over to SNK, and created Fatal Fury. Now, when he created Fatal Fury, it was right about the same time that Street Fighter 2 was in development. So they were actually being developed around the same time, which is actually, you can actually see his artistic vision in both of those games. He was the one that basically did the original Street Fighter 2 logo in that particular font. And if you look at the Fatal Fury font and color scheme, it's almost exactly the same.
Interesting.
Which is also one of the reasons why some of the gameplay is pretty much almost identical. Like some of the moves that you can pull off for Ken and Ryu and so forth, you could actually pull off for Andy Bogard and his brother Terry Bogard and so forth.
Yeah, and the infamous Capcom rebuttal to SNK, because Capcom thought they were being a little too close to their characters. So the character Dan from Street Fighter, because Capcom thought, I think it was Kyo or Ryo, was too close to Ryu.
Yes.
And they both wear the gis, they shoot the fireball, they do the uppercut. And so to poke fun at them, Capcom made Dan, who's like this just weak bitch Shoto that like his Hadouken only goes like 2 inches.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to look like Robert and Kyo from the Fatal Fury series, or excuse me, King of Fighter. I think Robert's from Art of Fighting.
Yep. Art of Fighting being the prequel spinoff of Fatal Fury. Which blew my mind is I didn't realize that Takeshi Nishiyama was so instrumental in both of the fighting series, or both of the game series, that they both almost follow the same format. Like Fatal Fury had a prequel game series called Art of Fighting. That's where Ryo and Robert was from, that McGriddles series talking about. And then Street Fighter 2 had a prequel series, which I didn't even realize was a prequel series. It was the Final Fight series. I didn't realize that Final Fight was a prequel to Street Fighter 2 until I started actually doing some research, which would explain why characters like Guy and Cody ended up in some of the later installments of Street Fighter.
Gotcha. I didn't realize that either. But you're right. They are... I knew that those characters came over. I didn't realize it took place before it, the way Art of Fighting takes place before Fatal Fury. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. Oh, go ahead, Bobby.
Did you by chance see, it would be interesting to see what areas of the game development, I forget the name of the guy you mentioned, but what areas he was mostly involved in? Because it's pretty apparent that visually the similarities between like Fatal Fury and Street Fighter 2. They're very similar visually, but there are definitely differences in the gameplay mechanics and the physics engines.
Yeah,
I was wondering if he was more of a story and artistic director, rather than sort of Omsai and physics engine guy.
Yeah, from what I was looking up, it looks like he was in charge of character development, storyboards, background, scenery, and I think he was the one that created the whole what do you call it? The 2/3 plane, being able to jump to the background, jump to the foreground. And
that's what I was talking about.
And
that thing's still crazy now.
He was in charge of color scheming, which is one of the reasons why many of the background colors look so similar between the two games.
Yeah, that's that background foreground. That's one of the things that I really thought that was an interesting. When I first found out about that, I went, "Oh, this could get really good eventually if someone thinks about it and does it right." But it was the only game. That was the only gameplay mechanic thing that I enjoyed more in the SNK.
Yeah, they actually had a lot of innovative stuff that eventually was transferred over not only into a lot of the Street Fighter games, but was also transferred over into some other fighting games like Tekken and Virtual Fighter. That inverse and outverse, Tekken utilized that, Virtual Fighter utilized that. SNK was one of the first ones to ever do the 3-on-3 team battles. They did that more for their, I want to say their King of Fighter tournament games later on in the series. I didn't realize how many fighting games SNK had. Like SNK, in terms of, this is where I have to rank SNK over Capcom. Now let me go ahead and rephrase what I'm getting ready to say. I'm gonna put
Choose your words carefully.
Yeah, I know, right? Before, I don't want the video game purists to burn my house down. I'm just simply saying that SNK, I have to give them the nod over Capcom in terms of quantity of fighting games, not quality, but quantity. SNK, man, they created well over 50 some odd fighting games. Outside of
how many of those are playable?
Almost all of them.
Really?
Yeah. Outside of,
I mean, playable as in you enjoy playing them.
Oh, see, yeah, my attention span isn't that broad. I stick to what I'm familiar with, and I stick to what I know.
Yeah.
With them, they had, like I said, they had Art of Fighting. They had the Fatal Fury, because they had 3 Art of Fighting games. I think they had 10. I want to say 10. No, I'm sorry, 15 King of Fighters games, because they have a new one coming out pretty soon. So there's 15 King of Fighters. There's 3 Art of Fighting. And I want to say with Fatal Fury, if you count even just the Japan-only releases, had anywhere between 10 to 11 Fatal Fury games. That is a lot of fighting games for just one series. And then you also have to take into account they have World Heroes, Samurai Showdown, and just a whole slew of other fighting games. When I was doing the research on this, I didn't realize how many of these games even existed. I didn't realize how many other fighting games borrowed so heavily from SNK. But what I was most surprised on is I had no idea of what the fuck any of these other fighting games were. I got bored and just went on YouTube and started looking up some of these fighting games, and man, some of them were absolutely fucking atrocious. Just absolute dog shit.
Well, when you drop a game every other week, it sounds like SNK was the masterpiece of fighting games.
Pretty much, yeah. They were just dropping mixtapes.
Dog shit coming out every 2 weeks.
And apparently that's what kept them. Apparently that's what kept them afloat, because they had basically opened up shop and went bankrupt a handful of times, but through basically King of Fighters and Fatal Fury and a number of their fighting games, that's how they were able to stay afloat. And they struck a lucrative deal at first, or at least so they thought, with Capcom by allowing Capcom to utilize the character of Terry Bogard for, I want to say it was one of the Smash Brothers games, I believe. I believe Terry Bogart's in one of those. They licensed out a bunch of their characters, which is what helped keep them afloat. Like Geese Howard appears in Tekken 7. Didn't even know that until I looked this up. I didn't even realize that Tekken would have anything to do with SNK at all. And then in Dead or Alive 5, a number of Fatal Fury characters appear in that. So I was like, man, that's a pretty genius move to keep yourself afloat by just licensing out your characters. From what I was reading, though, it definitely said that Capcom got the better of the deal by allowing Terry Bogard to be in the game. And it makes sense, because, I mean, visually he looks a lot better. His gameplay is a lot smoother, and I mean, obviously Capcom was able to do things in terms of marketing and in terms of reaching a broader audience that SNK just couldn't. As a fan of both, I'm a big fan of Fatal Fury. I'm a big fan of the King of Fighters series. Not so much Art of Fighting. I remember being a kid getting those games in like my stocking for Christmas and being highly let down when I put those on the Super Nintendo. Those were very shit games compared to King of Fighters. And even Fatal Fury themselves, having gone back today and took a trip down memory lane, I didn't realize in the first Fatal Fury game you could only play one of 3 characters. I didn't realize that at all. I was like, what the fuck? This fucking sucks.
One of the things that stands out for me... Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, I didn't realize that too. Facts.
It was a mind fuck. I was like, oh.
I was like, huh? I was like, wait a minute.
Like, even when you beat the game, you don't unlock anything. You don't unlock anyone.
I was like, well, shit. Like, damn. No wonder why they kind of really wasn't doing it. Okay. Like, competing with Street Fighter.
Go ahead, McGriddles.
One of the things that stands out to me the most with Capcom versus SNK, I felt like, I think we touched on a little bit, like the art style, which there was carryover with the same dudes. But like when you look at like the Street Fighter 2 roster, one of the things that impresses me the most about it, especially because you have such a limited time and space to actually tell a story to the people in the arcade. But like you can approach that arcade cabinet and you see E Honda, Dolls, and Blanca and Guile and Ryu. Like you know everything you need to know about those characters just from the way they look and the way they like move around and play Zangief. But like when you see the SNK guys like Terry Bogard, Joe Higashi, I feel like they kind of have that same thing going on, but a lot of it, which they have a slightly different, more realistic, less cartoony style.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's where Capcom just kind of that's why Street Fighter has the legacy it has, which is just a little bigger than SNK.
The memorable characters, memorable characters are really what allowed Street Fighter to that, and then once after Street Fighter 2, when they found out about things like frame traps in the game, they took over the gameplay evolution. But yeah, the initial, I think the initial and hook Street Fighter was the memorable characters.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's definitely one of the things that I was going to say that definitely separates Capcom from SNK. Like you can look at Ryu and you can see all that you need to see. He's got a torn up gi, a Karate Kid headband, and he's walking down the street looking for someone's ass to kick. That makes total sense. He's clearly a fucking dude who's just traveling the world looking to beat some ass, looking to test his skills against someone else. When I look at his counterpart, Terry Bogard, I don't see that. I see a fucking trucker who throws his hat in the air after every victory. His story... just upon first glance, I had no idea that he's traveling the world learning new fighting skills to avenge his dead dad. I would have never pieced that together if I didn't actually watch those anime movies today, which we'll review later on.
Yeah, like you look at Terry and I look at Terry and I think, oh, it's a guy who watched The Outsiders one too many times. That's all I think.
Yeah. Nice.
I didn't give the SNK series really the time to, mainly King of Fighters. I was like so into Street Fighter, and my one friend would tell me like, dude, you gotta try King of Fighters 2002 and King of Fighters 98. And I was just like so into Third Strike and Alpha 3 and Street Fighter 4 was like just but now later. I can totally recognize that King of Fighters 2002, in my opinion, is easily in like the top 3 fighting games for me of all time. King of Fighters 2002 is a masterpiece. And I was actually, right before we get on this, I was looking at that Fightcade thing, and there was 500 people playing King of Fighters 2002 right now. So
wow.
Its legacy lives on.
Man, that's a good turnout for that game. That's actually fucking impressive. That's not what I thought
they
you were
were
going to say.
actually up across the board. There's always a good, and by the way, for anybody listening, I'm talking about Fightcade, which is it's that multiple arcade machine emulator shit, but it's made specifically for Capcom SNK games. And there's just like there's dozens of fighting games. Like every Capcom and SNK game we're talking about is on there, up to like Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
Nice.
but it has really good net code. There's a huge community on it. They're savage, so don't expect to win any games. But if anybody is remotely interested in this, like, you can go play, the first Fatal Fury, which has like, fucking 3 buttons. I think there's like 1 punch button, 1 kick button.
Yeah.
You can go get your ass whooping that right now if you want. But I couldn't recommend Fightcade enough. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm glad you recommended that, man. That was dope, man. That definitely brought me back down memory lane. And you're right. That is not the place to go to if you cannot play. If you think that you have skills, you will find out very quickly that you do not.
Absolutely. I'm not even kidding. There's people who have been playing the games, like Street Fighter Alpha 3 came out in 1998. There's people who have been playing that game nonstop since 1998. They're on there. They're just like, they cannot let 1998 go. It'll never die. Like, they're just like absolutely savage. But I will say, which I don't win a lot on there, it's just fun. But once you can survive a little bit and hold your own on Fightcade, then when you go play like a regular console fighting game, the people are way less intimidating, because you just basically survived like the hardest prison of fighting games by playing Fightcade.
Hardest prison. That's fair. Yeah, the biggest takeaway that I got from just doing a little bit of research that I did in regards to SNK and Capcom, I definitely see what SNK was going for. Their mentality was, you know what, let's flood the market with so many fighting games. Let's just get whatever little bit of money that we can. Some characters will have a legacy. Some characters will not. Some games will be memorable. Some will not. Like I said, when I found out that they had over 50 some odd fighting games just floating around, that was completely mind blowing to me. And then it's almost insane when you think about it. But then you think about, okay, at the flip side, you look at their King of Fighters games. What they did was actually pretty genius. You have all these characters from these different games, and you merge them all together. And now, like some of the King of Fighters games, you got up to 50, almost up to 60 playable characters that you can use at any given moment for your gameplay. Which, in theory, that sounds good. But man, if you've ever played like any of the Smash Brothers or any of the SNK versus Capcom type games, even scrolling through 20 some odd players can be daunting at times. I couldn't imagine scrolling through 60 players whose backstories I don't know, whose movesets I don't know, whose powers I don't quite understand, and then just trying to do like a tournament or trying to just do like a sit-down marathon of just playing through the games. I can't speak for everybody, but I would find myself just always reverting back to the characters that I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
One of the things
having the 3 characters was like, you have to learn 3 of them really well. It's hard enough to learn 1,
right?
But they always had like King of Fighters, the three people, which I did the same thing for a long time, which was freaking Joe Higashi, Terry Bogard, and it was Andy for a while. Then I switched up to K, which my cat is actually named after K-Dash from King of Fighters.
Oh, dope.
Oh, wow.
Well, what I thought was hilarious when I was reading, they're like, yeah, SNK had reached some financial trouble when it came to Fatal Fury, because they clearly made a mistake by only having 3 playable characters. But then I was reading, and then they were like, yeah, but all that went away in Fatal Fury 2, well, not only when they added more characters, but then they created Mai Shiranui, the top-heavy female ninja, and it just solved all of their gaming problems. They said that Fatal Fury went from being... Yeah, they were like, Fatal Fury went from being a decent-selling video game, but when Fatal Fury 2 came out, oddly enough, they were able to go almost toe-to-toe with Street Fighter 2 in terms of sales in Japan. And a lot of that was in part due to a one Mai Shiranui.
Yeah, and a certain bounce she had in her sprite animation.
Certain moveset. Yeah, certain moveset. You couldn't really see what her face looked like, but they made sure that they focused on what you needed to see. Smart tactic on their part.
Yeah.
Even though her gameplay is pure garbage, her moveset is trash.
I never really played a lot of her. I played against her a lot. People use her constantly.
Of course they do.
But I never really played her.
Chun-Li, she is not. And I think that was always one of the biggest differences between those two characters. They made Chun-Li into an actual badass. Like, this chick would lightning kick you to fucking death, would helicopter kick you to death. Even her
off the wall.
Yeah, hop off the wall. Even her little double-handed fireball shit would still take half your fucking life. And on top of that, she wasn't slutted out. And then you have Mai Shiranui, whose movesets are questionable. Honestly, I couldn't name off any of her moves other than the bounce. I think she throws a fan. I think.
Oh yeah, she throws hella fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I really know of that character. I guess she's supposed to be a ninja. Okay.
One thing I thought was interesting that both series did, and then both series it didn't really work out that well. So Street Fighter had Third Strike, which takes place like at the very back end of the Street Fighter timeline, and it comes back. The only characters fans are familiar with in this is Ryu, Ken, Akuma. Everybody else is brand new. And then Fatal Fury did the same thing with their final game, Garou Mark of the Wolves.
Yep.
And the only returning character is Terry Bogard, new design. And it's interesting because both of them, I think, were commercially unsuccessful compared to the previous ones.
Yes.
I might be totally wrong about Mark of the Wolves, but I'm pretty sure. But also, ironically, both of them are like the best in the series, and they're the ones that fans knew like the least. Like, I didn't really get into Third Strike till freaking late 2000s.
It took me forever to give Third Strike a chance because it wasn't Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, it took me a long time, and I'm still not totally sold on a lot. I mean, I like a lot of the new characters in Third Strike. I got into Urian. He's like my main. I play him at least a couple times a week. I'll hop on Street Fighter Collection, which is one of the new compilations. That's great, and I rock it. But for me, when I first saw it, I was just kind of like, who the fuck are these people? I'm not really invested in them. But after playing it a while, now I am. But when it first came out, I can kind of see how, even though it had like the craziest gameplay edition where you can do the parries, which UTBABYA linked in the chat, the famous Daigo Umehara parry at EVO, which is no more. But that shit was only possible because of that crazy system.
That was it.
Yeah. And Garou was great too.
Remember the first time I saw that, I went, oh, gaming actually is a profession. You need discipline to be able to practice something like that. It takes those kinds of reflexes and that kind of execution and pull it off at in the highest pressure scenario. I went, oh yeah, no, this guy's actually training. This is
yeah.
Hey, Justice, I see you're back on. Is your mic working, bro? Moment of truth.
Yeah, I'm working, man.
Hey. All right, so go ahead and give us your take, man. SNK, Capcom. Who you feeling? Who you not?
I mean, I played a lot of SNK as I got older, but I'm a Capcom guy, man.
I respect that.
Street Fighter was there for me.
I respect that wholeheartedly. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I just wanted to make it clear, at the end of the day, in terms of the race to get to the finish line of who had the better fighting games, obviously Street Fighter 2 wins this hands down. I mean, Capcom absolutely hit the fucking nail on the head and basically revolutionized the way that all fighting games were basically played after that. Like I don't know if you had heard the beginning, Justice, but I was talking about how a man named Takeshi Nishiyama, who worked on the original 1987 Street Fighter game, was also working on Street Fighter 2 when he left to go to SNK and help start Fatal Fury. You can see his influence, and you can see his color palettes, his character development, his story mode or his storyboards all throughout both games. But I think where he failed in terms of execution was definitely the gameplay. Like when you're doing the jumping tornado kick of Ken and Ryu, it's a smooth transition. Smooth, absolutely smooth. Down, quarter circle, hit the whatever kick button, you're good to go. When it comes to SNK, a lot of it is convoluted as shit. Down, back, forward, down, back, A, B. It's nonsensical to do a lot of those moves, and then by the time you pull them off, it wasn't even worth the reward. Like if you try to compare Ryu's fucking fireball, any incarnation of it, compared to Terry's burning knuckle, it's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. And I understand that, SNK was trying to be creative in terms of a lot of the movesets and so forth, but I still have to give the nod to Capcom just in terms of the smoother gameplay and the smoother game engine. Now, another nod that I will give SNK over Capcom is their character likeness. Like, there's a character in the Fatal Fury games and King of Fighters. I want to say he's the wrestler. I think at one point he was named Big Bear or Bear. I can't remember what his other name was, but anyway, he was modeled.
Like Raidu or
yeah, he was named like Raiden, and then he was later changed to Big Bear, but he was modeled after Big Van Vader from WCW and WWF fame.
Interesting.
Nice.
And there's a number of characters that are like that. And there's another thing that I thought was pretty interesting, is that I didn't realize that Fatal Fury 3 or Fatal Fury 2 introduced a capoeira fighter who looks alarmingly a lot like Eddie Gordo of Tekken 3. And I didn't look up to see which one came out first, Fatal Fury 3 or Tekken 3, but the color scheme is almost the same. The movements are almost the same. I mean, obviously, Tekken 3 did it better, obviously. But I just thought that was pretty interesting that they both had this capoeira guy whose movesets were almost identical. And if Tekken 3 came out later, it would definitely make me wonder if perhaps they borrowed heavily from that. The guy had a horrible name, though. I think the guy's name was like Brian something.
It was like I honestly I was thinking one of the main differences in memorable characters is like the Fatal Fury games has like the 3 protagonists, and like a lot of them are forgettable.
Yes.
I mean, mainly in their names. And I seriously told myself, I was like, dude, if you don't write this name down, you're going to forget his name because it is so freaking boring. It was like Billy Myers or something.
Yeah,
was the capoeira guy.
it's something so unbelievably boring.
Boring.
Yeah, it was just like Fred Smith and, whoever.
Like, I wrote it down somewhere, but I didn't even think to hold on to it, because I was like, man, I'm not even going to bring him up. He's so fucking boring. But I mean, his movesets were fucking fantastic. He was a blast to play with. I just, for the life of me, cannot think of that dude's name, because that was one of the things that, I had to give Capcom over SNK. Capcom at least went out of their way to make their characters memorable, like the name Ryu or even Ken or Guile. Guile's a unique name. Like how many times in your life are you going to run across somebody named Guile?
Yeah, never.
Like never. Or Dalizum
Until my first son is born.
Or Zangief. Those are entertaining names. They're memorable. And they stick with you. When you think of Zangief, you only picture the giant fucking Russian dude built like a fucking bear. When you hear the name,
it's actually named after actual wrestler.
Exactly.
And like they did that with all the names, though. All of those names have their basis in something.
Yeah.
Something that's like that actually means something. And for most people, you might not know like the background of the name particularly. He managed to pick names that still had like something you could connect to, but you might not even know what it was. Like Ken is kind of the most obvious one as far as like the Ken, like the Barbie Ken doll. Like he's the American like dude with blonde hair, and he's the California dude. But then like Honda. Okay, well, that's obviously a car company that we know of that's been around forever. Like there's just things that you could kind of grab onto. And it's completely lacking in the other universe.
Yeah, and I looked up that dude's name. It's Richard Meyer.
Come on,
Richard Meyer. Yep. Like, dude, like
so upsetting.
This is how you were gonna like try to sell this dude. Like this was supposed to be the memorable name. Just Richard Meyer. That's it.
Can you imagine getting an action figure that's called Richard Meyer?
Oh, who's your favorite character? Richard Meyer. Oh, yeah. And apparently there was another one. There was Richard Meyer. He was the most famous of the capoeira dudes. Oh no, I was wrong. The guy I was thinking of was actually named Bob Wilson.
Yeah, that's another.
Bob Wilson looks just like Eddie fucking Gordo.
Yeah,
for a real person.
But he actually came. Oh, this actually came out before Eddie Gordo. Wow.
I mean, if a real person was actually fighting that name, they had better have a fantastic handle, like nickname, because no one's going to remember them.
Yeah, I'm reading this thing on Bob Wilson. It's like, believe it or not, Bob Wilson actually came before Eddie Gordo. As the successor to the Fatal Fury original Richard Meyer, Bob is a traditional capoeira fighter. Bob's persona and fighting style were pretty cool for the time, and his animation was done very well. However, he was overshadowed by the other fighting game capoeira users that soon followed in his footsteps, like Eddie Gordo of Tekken 3 and Elena from Street Fighter Third Strike.
I will say that in Tekken 7, Eddie players are the biggest pieces of shit online. But I think it's
Tekken
or
7.
Hey,
Fuck you, man. That
just
goes all the way
gotta
back
know
to
how
Tekken
stop
3.
it, man. You just gotta know how to stop it.
Nah, fuck
Don't
you.
sit here and say they're the biggest pieces of whatever God knows comes out of you guys.
No, I gotta side with
You gotta
McGriddles on this
learn
one.
how to stop them. Okay.
I hate when people say that shit. Oh, you just gotta stop the attack. You know, the one that you can't. You just gotta stop it. That's like back in the day when assholes would play with fucking Ken and Ryu and just sit there and do the fucking dragon uppercut into the spin kick over and over and over again. Dickheads.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong?
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
I have a move.
Well,
I have a move
back
for
then-
people like you.
And you could spam shit, and people
Exactly, that's-
couldn't really do much about it. Like now they have realized that in subsequent iterations of the games, and they've given people mechanics to deal with that.
My move set was always jump in the air, front flip. This is what Ken or Ryu. Flip over your fireball, he'll kick you in the face, kick your legs out from under you, dragon uppercut into the spinning kick. That was my go-to for years until fuckers started catching on.
I had the cross up kick to low short to either dragon punch or throw.
Okay.
People fits.
Yeah, McGriddles, what's your combo, bro? Let me know now, so I can remind you how I
depends on
smoked
which-
you at your house that one time.
depends on which fighting game. I seriously play I play like almost nothing but fighting games.
You know what we need to do,
But
gentlemen?
I got some.
At some point, we're gonna have to just mic up, go to McGriddles, or hold a tournament at my place or whatever. We just gotta live stream me absolutely kicking the fuck out of all of you.
That is a very
I would be
I'm just putting it out there. I'm putting it out there now. I'm putting it out there now in the ether so everyone hears me say this. Taz is going to absolutely, systematically destroy all of you in any fighting game of your choice.
Oh wow! Hey, now Ty,
Wow.
Any fighting
now,
game of your choice.
were you one of those people that when Street Fighter 2 came out on SNES, you beat it on level 7 with every single character?
Oh yeah, that was me.
Okay, good. Then we'll probably have a good match.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely have a good match. It'll be good to watch me take your whoever character you're using and decimate them.
Would you like me to beat you with Dalsim?
I would go so far as I'll let any one of you pick my character. That's how confident that I am that I will absolutely
Street Fighter 2?
destroy
Which one?
you. Bro, you pick. That's how confident I am. That's how confident I am.
Big talk coming out.
I live for fighting games. This was, if I wasn't whooping ass in the ring, I was whooping ass on consoles or whooping ass in the arcade. That was it. I wasn't doing good in school. I wasn't trying to better myself.
Yeah, that's priorities.
Just trying to fuck people up
That's
in
right.
real life or virtual.
Exactly. I wasn't trying to be a better pillar of society. No, it didn't matter. I'm trying to walk the earth like Cain. I'm trying to be like Ryu, just walking around testing my skills.
Man, that's the dream.
Oh yeah, and it just trips me out how McGriddles refuses to acknowledge how I whooped his ass at his house.
Oh,
it could be possible. I'm a heavy drinker. I
mean, we were both heavily intoxicated, but I do remember the one game. Now I will admit this: he smoked me every other time, but there was that one game where I won and refused to give him a rematch. The point of the matter is, I won.
Don't worry, man. We can run it back definitively and record it.
I mean, we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to. And Deku, I'm putting this out there for you, young man. Much like real life, I'll never let you beat me. I'll never let you beat me, ever.
Okay.
Never let you beat me.
Okay, I will agree with you. In real life, I'm not going to beat you.
I mean, you might once I'm dead, but I mean, until then.
Okay, that's fine. I guess you'll give that to me. That's fine. But
he's gonna rip up a nasty combo to your corpse.
I know, right? Justice, I have to put this out there for you too.
Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter,
bro, you'll never beat me in Mortal Kombat. Never. In any incarnation of Mortal Kombat, any of them.
So I will say this: in the older Mortal Kombat, you whoop my ass. But 10, 11 Aftermath, nah. I'm that troll online that gets on your nerves
Wait, there's an 11?
all the time.
Dude, I love getting hate mail from people in fighting games. Fighting games are the most toxic game to play online. People are like furious. But I love the hate mail. I like save them on my Xbox and shit so I can look at them.
I'll kill you.
I'll try to just keep gaslighting them and keep them going and going and going. And I've had people like literally talk shit to me.
Yeah, but
for,
they're
like,
the
multiple
toxic ones, right?
Exactly. They're the toxic
You're
ones.
gaslighting them, but they're the toxic ones.
Oh no, I'm the king of toxicity. I live for the toxicity of fighting games. That's why I play.
Okay. Well, yeah. All right. Now. Okay. Fair.
All right, so
fair.
around the room, name your top 3 SNK characters, top 3 Capcom. I'm going to go ahead and start this off because it'll be crazy easy with SNK. We're going to go a little Joe Higashi. I'm going to go Kim, the Korean dude whose name I can never remember his whole name. And you know what? For the sake of just mixing it up, I'm going to go a little Bob Wilson. Those are my 3 SNK. And for Capcom, I mean, obviously I got to go with Sagat, Ken, and this is going to be a hot take. I know a lot of people will probably disagree. I'm going to go with Dan. Yeah, right. Bullshit. Yeah, fuck Dan.
Hey,
it'll be
I
Chun-Li.
say something about Dan real quick. Dan was ragged on so much that they gave him, when they made Puzzle Fighter,
Yep.
they gave him the worst fucking drop scheme you could possibly have. It's just dog shit. You get beat every time.
Oh, yeah.
He's such a shit character.
That's hilarious. I didn't even know there was. I never really played it.
Oh, dude, Puzzle Fighter's fucking amazing. We're gonna have to get that and play that when we
Got to.
that.
I'm game.
Me too.
All right, 3 for 3. Go ahead.
Sure. I'll go first. Go. SNK from 3 to 1. Geese, Horse, Terry, and Joe.
Okay.
Yeah. Capcom, Street Fighter. Yeah. 3 to 1. Evil Ryu.
Ooh.
That was good.
Yeah. Evil Ryu. Let's see. Akuma and Oni.
Ooh. Oni.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get him
Nice.
to rap for everyone.
That was good. All right, Justice, you're 3 for 3.
SNK, I'll go Billy Kane, Eric Bogart, and Kim. I don't know why nobody said Billy Kane, because Billy was the man.
I mean, he was okay at best, but all right.
He was the man.
He's probably just British.
Street Fighter, of course. Ryu, Ken, and Chun-Li.
What about the third one?
Ryu, Ken, and Chun-Li.
Oh, sorry, you Ken and Chun. Okay, my bad. All right, UTBABYA.
All right, so it's probably going to sound like a little bit of sacrilege, but I could not and still can't make myself get into the SNK games.
Wow.
I've played them on and off. It never stuck with me. I think it's because I'm shallow and I didn't like the physics engines. And the characters didn't move as well, and I don't know. It just something about it. I couldn't do it. Maybe it was the names, whatever. But I did play. Really only played East and Terry for the SNK. So I guess they'll be my top 2, and that's kind of all I got for them.
That's fair.
But for Capcom, it's a tough decision because I like so many of the Capcom characters, and a lot of them are really fun to play in their own different ways. But ultimately, I come down to just liking the beastly ones. So I go with the often wrong Blanca, especially the Street Fighter 4 Blanca. I'm going to go with the newcomer from Street Fighter 5, Nikali.
Okay.
And then, of course, the glass cannon of all glass cannons, Akuma.
That's fair. That's a pretty tight list. All right, McGriddles, 3 of 3.
All right, for SNK, I have Geese Howard. He's definitely one of the better characters I feel in the series. As far as his branding, the fucking crime lord of Southtown, just badass. His moves are cool. Then I have Joe Higashi. He's the Muay Thai dude. It was really easy to spam. It still is. To his fucking, if you just mash punch, he turns it into this badass Thai combo.
Yep.
So you can use it as an easy starter. And then Kay, who's just a sweet character from King of Fighters series. Capcom. This is like choosing between children. So
It's a Sophie's choice.
first, I gotta go Ken. He was my main for pretty much all the Street Fighters until I got like good enough where I was like, okay, this is kind of boring. I gotta learn somebody else who wasn't a Shoto. Then Sagat, who was that second person I learned after Ken. And then Urien from Third Strike.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Urien also has the coolest job title in all the series. He's the, quote, vice president of the Illuminati. So he is a pretty important dude.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to take a real quick break. I thank you guys for your 3 for 3 picks. When we come back, I want to talk about the best Muay Thai / kickboxers in fighting games. I'm just opening up the floor to all fighting games. Could be your virtual fighters, could be your Tekkens. I want to know who you think are your best Muay Thai / kickboxing characters. We'll be right back. And we are back. Once again, opening up the floor. Gentlemen, who do you feel are the best kickboxer / Muay Thai characters in games? And I'm going to open this up to all games. Could be 2D games, could be 3D games. You call it.
For me, easily Brian Fury from Tekken. Easily.
I was not expecting that.
I was not expecting that at all.
For me.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Is there a question about? I mean, his moveset. I mean, it is Muay Thai. I mean, kickboxing. So it's real simplistic. Even his moveset, his overhand, his kicks, his everything. It's nothing complex about it. It's just straightforward power, economy, and motion.
Wow.
Nice. I never really thought of his style as Muay Thai, just because I always think of like the exaggerated Muay Thai character. But I mean, you're right.
He said economy of motion. That is, wow.
Man, that was, man.
You are an observer.
I don't know why that threw me off so much.
Yeah, his side steps, overhands, everything.
Okay.
Actually, that's one of his special moves where he sidesteps and hit you with the overhand, the knees, the straight right, the roundhouse kick, the switch kick. Oh man, come on, stop.
Okay. You know what? I actually think you might have. I think you actually beat mine for the what the fuck moment of the day. Because my initial pick for 3D characters, I went Bruce Irving. That silence right there tells me most of you forgot who the fuck Bruce was. Yeah. Bruce Irving was in the original Tekken. Actually, no, I'm sorry. He first appeared in Tekken 2. My bad. He was in the original Tekken 2, and he was fucking Ghost up until Tekken 5, Tekken 6, Tekken Tag, and I want to say like the Tekken mobile game or some shit like that. Yeah, Bruce Irvin.
Yeah. I mean, he's legit. Yeah.
Google that motherfucker. Take a trip down memory lane with that.
Yeah, the mohawk, right?
Yep.
Or the little mullet.
He was like the mullet / braided ponytail. He was the only black dude in Tekken 2.
They actually just came out with a new huge Muay Thai fighter in Tekken 7 as DLC. I haven't played with him yet, but he's like this giant
like 8
monster.
feet
Oh, you
tall.
talking about the big giant guy? Yeah, I saw that.
He was 8
Yeah, I
feet
saw his
fucking
trailer. I
tall.
didn't see him yet.
Yeah, since I haven't played him yet, I haven't put him on my list of top Muay Thai / kickboxing dudes in games. But yeah, so for me, for 3D games, I had to go Bruce Irving. My second is right up there with Justice Magnificent, was Brian Fury. Now for 2D, obviously I had to go Sagat, and I was torn between Adon and Joe Higashi. So I went with Joe.
For 2D, I feel like Sagat is the no-brainer. He's the god of Muay Thai.
I mean, if Sagat's not on your list for top Muay Thai dudes in games, especially 2D, go ahead and excuse yourself now.
Yeah, he was actually probably the first place I ever heard of Muay Thai. Period was probably like looking at him in Street Fighter and stuff online.
Wow, that's fair.
I mean, I was probably like 8 or 9 or something.
All right, McGriddles, who are your top?
For 2D, Sagat, of course. He's just awesome in all the games he's in, pretty much. If not one of the top tiers in every game he's in. And he's the god of Muay Thai, exposed me to Muay Thai. His character just looks so cool. The eye patch, the scarf from Ryu and shit. He's just fucking, he's the tits as far as fucking 2D Muay Thai. For 3D, I'm gonna throw a curveball here because probably the most Muay Thai guy I've actually played in 3D fighting games is probably Zach from Dead or Alive, which I'm not in love with.
Oh,
his
I
aesthetic,
forgot.
Wow, I forgot all about
he can
him.
go bonkers with his kicks and shit, and he's just so much fun to play.
Holy fuck! I forgot all about him.
He
Can I change my number 2
so.
from Brian Fury to Zach? Holy shit!
Right, I forgot.
Dead or
about
Alive flies under the radar because they do so much like titty weird shit that people forget it's like a really good fighting game.
Yeah, Dead or Alive does not get the love it deserves. I was gonna pose this question to you, and I'm gonna come back to Deku and UTBABYA in regards to their 2D and 3D Muay Thai picks. But I was thinking for the next video game comparison, I think we should do Dead or Alive and Virtual Fighter. That's why we have these open discussions. All right, UTBABYA, back to you. Your top Muay Thai cats, 2D, 3D.
Ooh, so 3D. I have to go with. And it was so long ago. Mr. Tekken 2. I literally don't even know the character. I don't even remember the character's name.
Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce. Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, I would go with him just because I don't think I even played any other 3D Muay Thai characters. Also, wasn't a huge fan of the way 3D was being done back when it came out. So limited my access. Then as far as 2D, I mean, it's hard to not pick Sagat, but even though he's kind of a poor man's ripoff, I kind of like playing Adon too. But I think I'm gonna have to go with Sagat just because he's classic.
Okay.
He's classic and fucking tiger knee, bro. Fucking tiger knee,
Tiger.
dude.
Facts.
Yeah, when I first saw that, I freaked out. I was like, oh,
Like flying knees, that's amazing.
yeah.
I got a question. Speaking of Joe Higashi,
Yep.
why is his tiger kick like a tiger knee?
That I was wondering that when I saw that movie, I was like, he says tiger.
You know what? We're just going to say that got messed up in translation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what we're going to go with. It's they fucked up. That's all. You know. Deku, your 2D and 3D Muay Thai kickboxing counterparts. Call it.
Well, of course, like pretty much everybody, when it comes to 2D, definitely Sagat. And like McGriddles probably said, or someone said earlier, that was not even know it. That was probably the first time I ever seen Muay Thai, like straight up. And also in 3D, he looks ridiculous, like a dope ass character too. But I will say, of course, Bruce from Tekken 2.
There you go.
And what really is probably going to be way different from what people think. I consider her, Muay Thai because the kicks that she throws and kind of, Muay Thai techniques that she does is a recent game. I will go Mortal Kombat 11, Jackie Briggs. Actually, that's like my main on Mortal Kombat actually right now.
Okay.
And the kicks that she throw, it didn't really hit me till like maybe 2 weeks into. I was like, okay, those are Muay Thai kicks because she throws them so fast, like how I'm doing Muay Thai kicks or we doing Bangkok drills, those type of things. That's how she throws her kicks and a lot of her combos. So Jackie Briggs.
Okay. All right, gentlemen. I appreciate you for giving me your insights, and I definitely appreciate everyone that chose to hop on the bandwagon of Bruce Irving, because Bruce Irving would destroy everyone on your lists not named Sagat. So I'm glad that we're all in agreement here that Bruce Irving would absolutely destroy Brian Fury. Sorry, Justice, but I think if it came down to it, Bruce Irving would destroy Brian Fury.
But Brian Fury doesn't really die.
Yeah, Bruce Irving would find a way. He found a way to come back from obscurity after only being in part 2. That speaks volumes for his resiliency.
But every time they think they killed Brian, he comes back.
Shut up. So anyway, we're gonna take another quick break. And when we come back, you guys want to do the coin toss to see who reviews which piece of cinematic history first? We want to go SNK's Fatal Fury flicks, or we want to start off with Street Fighter? You guys call it.
I feel like we should do Fatal Fury first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm game.
Yeah, because otherwise we're just gonna end this thing, and I'm gonna be pissed off.
Yeah, let's get Fatal Fury over with. We can talk about a good movie.
All right, when we come back, we'll be going right into the wonderful films from Fatal Fury. And we are back. So, who would like to go on ahead and synopsize this wonderful film series of Fatal Fury?
I can try.
This is going to be
so
good.
I watched Fatal Fury, the motion picture, which I was under the impression was a standalone film. Apparently, there's two other things that have something to do with this, which might have shed some kind of light on it, but I doubt it. It was such an incoherent, rambling mess that little was to be made out of it. I would actually challenge anybody listening to this to even go on its Wikipedia page or SNK wiki and just try to read that plot summary. Your head will explode after like 3 paragraphs and you'll never get through it. Or you'll say, it's not worth it. And you'll find a reason to quit before you get through it. I guarantee it. So SNK Fatal Fury, this is a series about Terry Bogard's father was killed by Geese Howard, who is the crime lord of Southtown, which is a fictional city. And the crime lord has this King of Fighters tournament, and Terry goes through this tournament to avenge his father. And that would be cool if the movie had any fucking thing to do with that whatsoever. For some reason, this movie is like the core characters, Terry, Andy, and Joe, and they're going on this like Dan Brown novel adventure to find the armor of Mars. The bad guy characters, I don't believe the bad guys in this movie are in any fucking Fatal Fury or King of Fighters games. I don't ever remember seeing these people. I don't know who the fuck they are. I don't remember the God of Mars in King of Fighters, who is the end boss. But you go through this rambling thing about this armor. The animation's inconsistent. The pacing is inconsistent. It feels like they took 4 boring anime episodes and just shoved them together and called it Fatal Fury, the motion picture. But it was truly difficult to get through. You'll be checking your phone every 5 seconds, at least I was. It has almost nothing to do with Fatal Fury or King of Fighters that I can tell. I did hear some rumblings that something about Wolfgang Krauser's armor or something might have to do with the Mars. Also, don't forget, the Mars was pivotal in overthrowing Alexander the Great, because that's in King of Fighters. That was also in the movie. They made a big point of Alexander the Great is mentioned more times than any of the actual fucking King of Fighters characters. They showed Geese Howard for like 1 second. I don't know what the fuck he was doing. He like blew up some woods, and then you never saw him again.
See, that tells me that you didn't watch the other 2 anime flicks, bro.
He did that.
Oh man,
my review is totally biased. I just fucking couldn't stand it. My review is done. It's trash.
Nice. All right.
Dude, I can't see. I mean, even if there was a Fatal Fury 1 and 2, I can't see anything redeeming them. Like, I did see them on YouTube, and I was like, I'll let somebody else fucking tell me what this shit's about.
Fatal Fury. The original Fatal Fury anime. I forgot what year that it came out, because honestly I didn't bother to fucking look it up. Basically, in a nutshell, Terry Bogart's dad is killed in the fucking park one day as they're little kids and they're just hanging out doing fucking dumb shit, whatever. Their dad is like stabbed in the back by an associate of Geese Howard's for reasons completely unknown. At the time, Geese Howard wasn't exactly the crime boss of Southtown. He was just some thug or, I don't know, some shit. Anyway, also at the park one day is Terry Bogard and Andy Bogart's first initial martial arts instructor, who was there basically 10 feet away from when their dad got shanked in the back, but for some reason he couldn't stop the would-be attacker. But whatever, we'll leave that for another day. The master then tells Terry and Andy that they need to go on some spiritual fucking journey to travel the world to learn as many martial arts as they can and to get into, and I quote, get into as many street fights as you can to better yourself. Because, you know, that's what you do when you're supposed to be teaching people. You tell them to go run out and fight people. Anyway, we fast forward a handful of years or whatever, and the master tells them, whichever one of you comes back with the most newfound street fighting skills, I'll teach you the most dangerous technique of our fighting system. This technique is unstoppable by any man, whatever. So, we fast forward. Andy and Terry, they come back, and along the way they meet Joe doing some street fight shit. I don't know, whatever. They meet some girl in a bar. Anyway, Terry reaches back up with the master. The master's like, okay, I'm about to teach you this sacred hidden technique. It's just going to blow your mind. The technique that he shows them is literally the equivalent of a child closing their eyes, extending both arms, and twirling around in a circle. Supposedly, this is the most unstoppable technique in their system. This old man shows Terry how to do it one time and dies in the process of teaching him this technique. Terry then goes, I shit you not. Terry then goes and confronts Geese Howard, who doesn't recognize him for shit right away until he happens to look down at a martial arts magazine to see Terry on it, and he's like, oh shit, that's the dude from my bar that was hitting on my chick where he met Joe. Okay, now we need to fight to the death. Okay, cool. If you can get past me, then you can enter my fucking King of Fighters tournament. It makes no sense to me why you would fight the main guy first to see if you qualify for a tournament just to fight the main guy, but whatever. Reasons, that's why. Anyway, they have their battle. Geese is kicking the ever-living fuck out of him until he calls upon this technique of which he closes his eyes, spins around in a circle, and punches Geese in the fucking chest, and he flies into the air and into the water. Movie ends. Hyah! Yay! Fatal Fury 2, Legend of the Lone Wolf. This is where it gets even more convoluted. We are then introduced to a Wolfgang Krauser, who is a guy who apparently is rich, who is rocking some type of medieval Alexander the Great armor for no fucking reason. He comes from a long line
of Mars.
Armor of Mars. He comes from a long line of badasses who apparently over the years were so dangerous and so badass that they had to scatter their armor all over the place because they were just too fucking deadly. But not only is he the baddest motherfucker on the planet, he needs to know who was the guy that beat up Geese Howard. Because I guess he had all intentions on challenging Geese Howard, but since Geese Howard lost to somebody named Terry, he has to go find out who he is. He tracks down Terry, living a simple fisherman's life, challenges him to a fight. Terry is getting his ass kicked because he hasn't practiced any martial arts because he's been utilizing his spin-around technique with his eyes closed. He tries it on this dude. Lo and behold, this guy knows that technique too, and he knows the counter to the technique, and the counter is to spin in the opposite fucking direction with your eyes closed, with your fists abound, and spinning in an opposite circle. I shit you not, that's really the counter to that. Anyway, Terry gets his ass kicked by an angry child with his eyes closed, spinning around in a circle, dueling two fists. Terry then goes into a vat of absolute depression, starts drinking, starts losing street fights left and right, where he then meets a homeless boy. And this homeless boy, for whatever reason, just believes in Terry, and he just knows that one day he'll be lone wolfing it again. I shit you not, that's actually a line that they say. Anyway, somehow this little fucking kid tracks down Terry's brother and one Joe Higashi, and he now has the spirit and the fighting capacity to live again. Who the fuck knows? Anyway, Geese Howard is living in the fucking woods, training like one of the old karate masters from one of the kung fu flicks where he's just punching trees and rehoning his techniques, vowing to never lose another fight by way of closed eye spinny fists ever again. Anyway, they track down this Wolfgang Krauser. Wolfgang Krauser beats the ever-living crap out of all three of them because he's just that badass. And then eventually Terry figures out, oh shit, if he doesn't have his armor, he can't beat me. Somehow they get his armor. He lands some stupid variation of his burning knuckle. Wolfgang Krauser falls off of a cliff into the ocean. I shit you not. He sinks to his death, never to be seen again. And now we go into Fatal Fury the Motion Picture, which McGriddles just reviewed. That was 2 movies in a nutshell.
McGriddles reviewed without knowing that there's 2 prior films.
Exactly.
It's the kind of quality you can expect from me. I mean, even after hearing what you just said, I'm not missing those 2. I mean, I'll probably end up watching it just because I'm a loser. But it was just fucking awful.
I would recommend watching it for one reason and one reason only. When you see the special technique that their master teaches him, you're just going to laugh. He literally crouches down, closes his eyes, twirls around in a circle with his arms fully extended, and does spinny fists. And that is the unstoppable technique.
That's sick, dude. I'm actually going to watch it just so I can imitate it in the gym next time there.
Oh, it's a thing of beauty, and I can't wait to try it on somebody. UTBABYA, you had the wonderful joy of reviewing Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. Fill us in, bro.
Indeed, I did. So, okay. So, diametrically opposed to the horse shit that you just reviewed. Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, a 1994 release, and it is, and I don't use this word often, I would actually consider it a masterpiece. Even it might not seem so watching it now, but given when it came out and the influence that it had on the Street Fighter franchise, and just the excellence of the movie itself at the time, I really think it is a masterpiece of an animated combat movie. So, this movie basically follows our main protagonists, Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, and Guile, as they are dealing with run-ins with Mr. M. Bison. And the basic plot is that M. Bison is locating and abducting and brainwashing the best fighters in the world, and he's doing it so that he can turn them into his own personal terrorists. He uses these cyborgs to spy on them and figure out what their abilities are, and then he uses his psycho powers to beat them to submission and then brainwash them. A little outlandish story, but this movie is so good from the jump, right? The opening scene is Ryu and Sagat fighting in a thunderstorm in an open field in Australia, I think. And it's dark and it's stormy, and you get flashes of light where you can see what's going on when the lightning strikes, and it is a fucking badass fight. That's when, like, from the jump, you know this movie's going to be good. The action sequences are absolutely amazing. And you see it from the very beginning. They actually work in the normals, like the standard moves, into the action sequences, and they do it in a way that's actually fairly realistic. They're not just like spamming special moves the whole time. It looks kind of like a real fight. Part of that is due to the fact that there were two consultants on this. One Mr. Kazuyoshi Ishii, who you may recognize as the founder of K1, and one Mr. Andy Hoog, you may recognize as an axe-kicking motherfucker. The heavyweight kickboxing, well, really just lore now, but this is a dude who hit fucking Ernesto Hoost and Crow Cop with axe kicks. I don't know how you do that, but so these guys consulted on the fight sequences, and it shows, man. I mean, these fight sequences are so fun to watch. They're nonstop, and again, like oddly realistic, and yet they still tie in a ton of the characters' movesets, even like the normal movesets as well, which I thought was just really, really well done and thought out. But anyway, so the movie opens up. Ryu and Sagat are fighting. It's just the epic battle you would imagine Ryu and Sagat to have, and it's the fight where Ryu beats Sagat with the ending move is his technically it's a fireball, but he gives him the scar with the dragon punch. So he got that scar on his chest, and so you see this fight going on, and then there's flashes of the fight from the view of the cyborg that's watching Ryu and calculating his martial arts capability. And then the movie picks up some years after the fight. Sagat knows about Ryu because of that fight. I'm sorry, M. Bison knows about Ryu because of that fight, and he's trying to track him down because he's the most powerful fighter that he's ever seen, so he really wants to make him his own terrorist. He's trying to track him down. Meanwhile, Chun-Li, who works for Interpol, is pestering Guile to help her and find Bison. Guile is kind of forced to help her. He's begrudgingly doing it, but they end up becoming unlikely partners. And you see some of the backstory between like Ken and Ryu is filled in. You see them training with their master. You see their friendship. You see Ken give Ryu his headband. So that kind of just fills in the story of the characters. But it really sort of the movie starts following Ryu as he's moving through Asia, Southeast Asia, and as he does that, you get to see these fights that he walks into and is a part of sometimes. So he was originally, I think, in Myanmar or something, and there's an underground fight, and he gets thrown in because he's the new guy and no one's seen him there, so he gets thrown in there and headbutts the first dude to oblivion. And then Fei Long is in the crowd. He steps in. So we get our first fight that's not in the darkness of Fei Long versus Ryu. And it's fucking everything you would want. We get that fight. We get Ryu going to India, and he sees Dalsum fighting E Honda. We get to see Zangief versus Blanca while Balrog is watching. To see Blanca fucking electrocute Zangief, which is fantastic. I love it. Oh, he also does he jumps on him and starts biting him, which is, again, directly from the game.
Fuck yeah.
We get to see Chun-Li versus Vega. Like, all of these are, like, kind of quintessential matchups, and they're everything that you would hope for. Also, again, towards some of the realism, so Vega basically goes to assassinate Chun-Li in her house. She has just gotten out of the shower. She's in her nightgown. It's oddly not that she's not scantily clad or anything. She's in a nightgown, but they're not gratuitous about showing her body or anything. Vega comes in with his claw and as the killer. So the first thing she does is grabs a fucking lamp and smashes him with it, and then tries to like stab him with the broken off end, which I thought was kind of cool because it doesn't strictly adhere to the fighting game hand-to-hand combat thing. It was interesting to see that. She actually also at one point throws a fucking couch at him, and it's kind of believable too because they make her an absolute badass.
She's not a damsel in distress in this movie at all. She's a fucking beast.
Oh, fuck no. She looks like a gymnast that if you saw her and knew that she was going to train for like 5 years in Muay Thai or something like that, you'd be like, oh yeah, no, she's going to fuck people up. She can fuck up some dudes. Yeah, they make her a complete badass, which is awesome. But man, this movie just like I said, the story follows Ryu as he's wandering and Bison's trying to find him. Meanwhile, Lee and Guile are trying to find Bison. Bison ends up finding out about Ken and Ryu and finds out that Ken is a really good fighter as well. And since he can't find Ryu, he just picks off Ken. So he ends up beating him in a fight, taking him back, brainwashing him. And then Ken ends up having to fight Ryu once Bison actually finds him. And the brainwashed Ken is apparently he was the motivation for the character Violent Ken, which I'm sure all know and love. And that's another thing about this movie is that after this movie came out, it influenced and all of the subsequent Street Fighter games, whether it was character design. So the movie made a lot of the characters bulkier and more muscular than they were in like the Street Fighter 2 and Super Street Fighter 2 series. And then after the movie, a lot of the sprites got bigger and bulkier in the following games. There are certain move sets. So like Cammy makes a cameo and she does her cross up move where she jumps over the guy, grabs the guy by the throat, jumps over and twists his neck. She actually assassinates a guy because she's been brainwashed by Bison. That's how she assassinates him. That move became part of her moveset after that.
Oh, did it?
And then, oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and also it is pretty likely that some of the inspiration for Seth, the design of the Seth character, came from the cyborgs that are shown that Bison uses to spy on people. I think there's a couple other characters, as well as storylines get picked up for like the Alpha series. So this movie was really played a big role in the Street Fighter franchise, in the gaming franchise. Some interesting things that you might notice if you're watching it, and I realize I'm kind of all over the place here with the storyline. So I guess I'll just finish it out. So there's a fight between Ryu and Ken. Of course, Ryu has to make Ken remember their training together and sort of adolescence and friendship. And then once Ken remembers his past and snaps out of his brainwashing, Ryu and Ken end up fighting Bison together and ultimately defeating him. So on to some of the interesting trivia that I came over. So first of all, if you're watching the movie on YouTube like I did, you'll probably notice that there are portions of it where the sound just cuts out. And that's because when they made this movie for English release, they kind of just did it right. They actually have a bunch of songs from like big time artists in there. So during the Chun-Li and Vega fight, sound cuts out because the soundtrack to that fight is actually the song Ultra by AMFDM, the industrial, I guess you'd call them industrial group from the 80s and 90s. And there's also an audio cutout during one of Ken's scenes with his girlfriend in a car, and that's because an Alice in Chains song is playing. So they actually, whatever they had to do to get the rights to those songs, they ended up doing it, and they even got a Korn song is in the end credits.
That's what's up.
Yeah. Blind comes on at the end of the movie. Some fun things. Akuma makes a cameo. He's sitting against a wall in Calcutta during the E Honda and Dulcim fight. Unfortunately, that's all it is. He's sitting against the wall. And when I first saw him, I went, "Oh fuck! I don't remember him being in this. Did I fall asleep at the end of the movie? Nothing actually comes of it, unfortunately. So I was really hoping I was going to see a flying fireball. It turns your nuts into a speed bag.
Oh man, so we're going 5 and above. That's what's up. You know what? I have to second that. I have to give that movie a 5. How about yourself, Deku?
Most definitely a 5 because it's just one of those movies that are timeless, man. Like I remember watching this when I was younger, and then a bunch of times when I was younger, and then when I also in college again, just baked out of my mind just watching this. Oh my gosh, it's such an incredible movie.
Hell yeah.
And now just watching it again, well, I'll probably watch this movie like 4 times within the last week.
That's what's up, man.
And like it just brought back so many memories of like, like something like this a child can escape to, or even as an adult you can just get lost in. Not saying you can kind of get lost in the book, you kind of get lost in this movie, if that makes sense.
Justice, your rating, sir. Okay.
Most definitely, it's a 5. I mean, my opinion, it felt like an anime. It really did.
Agreed.
It didn't feel like a video game just being animated. Like they just threw some things together. Little Fury, it dropped the ball. It wasn't terrible, but it was okay. But most definitely, Street Fighter, they got it. They hit it right on the head. I give it a 5.
Okay.
And even along how it influenced the series, I mean,
Can't
Yeah,
ask for more.
most definitely 5.
McGriddles, your rating, sir.
Definitely a 5. It's probably one of the first anime I've ever seen because I would have had like
Oh, wow.
Street Fighter as a game, and then it was probably like if I was in the video store, I'm sure that's probably one of the first ones I would have watched. But not only did it get me more interested in anime, it set that fire of Street Fighter that will never fade. It's still a go-to, dude. You gotta watch it at least a couple times a year.
Dope. Fucking love it. Love to hear it, guys. So, once again, it seems like Capcom has taken the lead in this one as well. So I gotta ask, where do we rate the Fatal Fury movies? 1 being absolute dog shit, 5 being an absolute soul-obliterating shot to the nuts of awesomeness. I, for one, I have to give the Fatal Fury movies, I gotta give it a 1. The animation was subpar. The plot line is completely incomprehensible. I think UTBABYA said it best. If you have to watch 3 movies to understand a single plot, then there's definitely a problem. So for me, it's a 1. Even though I'm still a big fan of the SNK games, I'm still a big fan of what they brought to the table in terms of innovativeness in regards to the inverse and outverse and the 3-on-3 combat fight engines and all that shit. But in terms of this movie, it gets a 1 out of me.
Yeah, I'll second that. It's I was unable to stay awake for more than 50 minutes. So that's generally a problem, especially when there's violence involved, because I love watching violence.
As do I.
But, yeah, it was so hard to get through, and then I woke up again and tried to now I'll actually watch it, and it's a fucking.
All right,
I gotta give it.
All right, Deku.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 1.5. And the 5, the only reason I'm giving it a 0.5 is because I was good at the video game.
That's
That's
fair.
the only reason. All movies were Hershey squirts, doo-doo balls, doo-doo sickle.
We got to put that on a t-shirt, bro.
Oh, yeah, I'm working on it.
I'm telling you, bro. We have to put that on a fucking t-shirt. That, you know what? That needs to be your fucking catchphrase, man.
Oh, yeah, I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to have
I need you to throw that in every fucking show. Every show, no matter what we're talking, I need you to just throw that shit in.
Yeah, that's straight doo-doo sickles. Like,
Justice, your thoughts, man? How do you rate it?
Well, being the anime fan that I am, I would have to give it a 2.
Okay.
Only because I'm an anime fan. I didn't like the anime. I did, however, just being that fan, I did kind of sit through all the movies. The motion picture was probably the best one, which it still wasn't great. It was probably the best one, but it wasn't just atrocious, in my opinion. After you got to that, but being that all 3 were terrible, most definitely a 2.
I can feel that. I feel that. I still give it a 1, but I see exactly where you're coming from. Yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm glad they didn't try to continue that on. I'm glad that they realized where they fucked up and was like, you know what? Let's just go ahead and go back to making King of Fighters games and venture out of the world of anime before we end up losing more fans. So, gentlemen, I'm going to hit the commercial break. When we come back, Justice, why don't you take us down memory lane, man?
All right.
Matter of fact, go ahead and hit us with memory lane and technique of the day while you're at it. That's a hell of a technique.
Technique of the day, I alluded to before, is going to be Joe Higashi's Tiger Knee, which is a tiger kick. I do not. Why is it named a tiger kick and he throws a knee? I am not sure.
That's
but
fair.
The use of the knee is a great combination in the game that you can use. Joe Higashi is really straightforward, pretty easy to play. So if you ever playing Fatal Fury, any of the games, Joe Higashi is probably one of the better characters to start with.
If you have no skills in fighting games at all and you just find yourself to be just a repeated button masher, Joe Higashi's your character.
Pretty much.
Honestly, the best part of the motion picture was his flying knee when he fights Hua. That was probably the best scene of the movie where Joe Higashi fights him and he finishes him with this brutal, like, anime fast flying knee. Then Hua is like dead. So I definitely concur.
I found him to be the best parts of all 3 movies. And that's not saying
Joe
much
was
at
just
all.
a good character.
So where are we heading down memory lane today, sir?
Down memory lane. So we're gonna stay in the fighting game genre, but we're gonna throw a little twist in it
Okay.
for all you wrestling fans and 80s, early 90s arcade people. We're gonna go throw in Saturday Night Slam Masters.
Holy shit. Wow.
Oh my god.
Man.
Now, if you went to an arcade anywhere between 1991 and whenever arcades just went out, you saw this game, whether it was named Super Muscle Bomber or Muscle Bomber Duo, Ring of Destruction. You saw this game and you probably played it. And you probably like the characters like Stinger and Ani and Biff. And if you were a fan of if you played Final Fight, which was probably a few machines down, you saw Mike Hagar. He was in this game as well, which was, just one of the things that kind of brought you to the game. You'd be like, oh, this is the same as the wrestling guy. Okay, cool. Let's see what this is about. But essentially, it's a fighting game with some wrestling. Mechanics really weren't that great, but at that time, I mean, it's a classic, man.
Little known fact, that's actually part of the Street Fighter lore.
Yeah, so actually, Biff, which is a Russian guy, speaks about Zangief, and then Gunlock, which looks kind of similar to Biff. He actually is supposed to be Gao's brother, according to the movie.
Oh wow!
So yeah, there's a couple of characters that dealt with, had some interaction with some Street Fighter characters. You had Jumbo Flapjack. There was a Black Widow. She had an interaction with someone. So yeah, it was a pretty cool game in the Capcom universe, if you want to call it that. But overall, most definitely a classic. If you have a Xbox, or maybe you're doing the ROMs on your PC, try to get Saturday Night Slam Masters. You will be, it'll take you back.
That's what's up. Justice, I thank you for taking us down memory lane, and I thank you very much for the technique of the day. I'm going to be tripping off that tiger knee / tiger kick all night, just 'cause I watched that movie today and could not figure out why he shouted that out, but never threw the kick in itself. Well, gentlemen, that was all I had for you guys for this evening. Once again, thank you for another fantastic show.